and currently Tom Johnson, some great moments so far and many more to come. So another mention for Billy Wiz, Jason Robinson. Definitely an exciting player. Semi Tadulala.
Yes.
He was an entertaining player. Certainly a player you remember, but I don't know. He was a Rocks and Diamonds player to me. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know if you guys remember him differently.
Well, he had a mistake in him. He played a couple of years at Bradford after his time at Wakefield. Rocks and Diamonds is probably quite a good description. Yep.
Second mention already as well for Tom Johnson. I mean, his finishes are kind of one of the iconic images. When I was putting together the tweets that we sent out to kind of encourage people to get in touch, pictures of him and Tommy Makinson, there were so many to pick from where they were in unusual angles, getting the ball down in difficult positions.
It is crazy, isn't it?
It's insane.
You've got those acrobats now, haven't you? There's him and Makinson and your man Marshall at Wigan as well that can do that, and they're just doing it all the time, aren't they? It's a try-off.
It's since another rule change, the corner post being taken out of play, and it's made the sort of flying wingers, you see it. It's too hard to even name them in the NRL, I suppose, because there's so many every single week. Players who can pull that sort of stuff off, but Johnston and Makinson are amongst the best at it. And they're in our league, so yeah, that's great.
Yeah, that's the classic thing, isn't it? Going back to that thing about the changing the rules. It's not that it might not be that the skill was impossible for the players of yesteryear. It's just that it wasn't a rule that they could take advantage of because touch the corner post and you're out of play type thing. So it's an evolution of the game, isn't it?
Yeah. Who did Tom Andrews get in touch to want to talk about?
Tom Andrews says, my pick of this week is the high-flying goal kicker Josh Mantellato, one of the first flying finish wingers you could score and kick from the most acute angles. Shame we couldn't afford to keep him when we went down.
He was a decent player, actually, for them.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He was a really good finisher. He was... what was his nickname? He had a nickname, and I can't think of what it was.
No, I can't remember. Was it? But he ended up with a detached retina or something really nasty, didn't he?
And I wonder why they wouldn't have been able to afford him, because it wasn't like he really got a go in Australia. I know he got some contracts with some of the NRL clubs, but only ever played in the New South Wales Cup. So he never.
Yeah, but Rovers were on such a shoestring.
Yeah, when they went down.
Especially when they went down. I'm sure that he got a nasty injury, and I guess therefore wasn't worth paying him a lot.
I first remember seeing him playing for Italy in the 2013 World Cup and thought that he looked a real prospect, and I was surprised that he didn't have a big career in the NRL, because I think he might have played centre a bit more. The game I actually saw him play live, I think he was playing centre, but for Italy. But yeah, a talented player. He wasn't very fast, was he? But he had an amazing reach and an amazing leap. I mean,
he was really, really tall, wasn't he? So you've got that extra 6 inches or whatever.
I mean, the comparisons would be maybe like I'd say a poor man, but of poor clubs, Pat Richards or Joel Monaghan, weren't they, in terms of the size, the fact that he wasn't the quickest, but he was always able to get himself into the right positions to be a good finisher.
Yeah.
And I think having a winger that can kick as well, because he was a tremendous he could kick from the sidelines, and he was very. He
could kick from in the stand, really.
Yeah, he did have a powerful leg.
Quite enough positives to be said about a Rovers player.
We'll move on then, Sarah. Who's next?
David Powell, St David 2911, says, I'm not old enough to have seen Bevan Boston or the Mighty Vol, sadly. of those I've seen, a fire was the best. Sad face.
I think it's a sick face emoji.
Okay, but he's also sad.
Yeah.
At Saints, I would go Sullivan. Dream pairing, those two would be pretty impressive.
So that's Anthony Sullivan, Clive Sullivan's son, who played for Saints around the turn of the century. Very, very quick winger. So that would be one of the fastest pairs you could imagine. I would think of Fire and Sullivan. That would be up there for speed.
Yeah.
Enough of that now. At Andy Gilder said the best winger he's seen is Eric Grove. I think he means Eric Grove Senior. And from the 80s at Parramatta. And the best at Leeds was Ryan Hall. He said that's his dream pairing. Imagine the meters on kick returns and the quick play of the balls. So second shout for Ryan Hall. Eric Grove's a player I never saw play, but I know he's sort of one of the modern wingers that's in the Aussie Rugby League Hall of Fame. I don't know if either of you, Sarah or Alan, have got more on Eric Grove, or I don't know if you want to talk about Ryan Hall a bit more at this stage.
I know nothing about Eric Grove. No, but I mean, I mean, should we wait to talk about Ryan Hall till Dr. Bob has his moment?
Fair enough, we'll wait. Who's next then? But yeah, in fact, no, Eric Grove. Let's, because I think Eric Grove was one of those players who had built his reputation in the representative game. So was a strong winger for his club side, and he actually did play for Leeds in the mid-80s as well. But it was his performances for Australia and New South Wales that I think were the ones that, stood him out. I mean, here his record's 10 tries in 8 games for Australia, whereas for Parramatta it was 78 in 152. I know tries aren't everything, certainly for guys returning kicks as well as a modern winger needs to do. So maybe he's in that group of players we've talked about so much that came around in the 80s in Australia who were the start of what we see now. But those international records is hugely impressive as a try scoring record, isn't
like
it?
Like a Gagai at Queensland.
Yeah, maybe so, yeah. Yeah, good shout. Matthew Speakman then, Al.
Yep, so Matt Speakman says, Big Leslie was the terror of my childhood. Well, I'm sure if there's one we can play, the rest of the other fans don't hate, it's Dom Manfredi. An incredible story, and I'm sure the whole league is behind him after what he's been through. His personal dream pairing is Josh Adokar, the Fox, and Chariot Sapphire. When players get nicknames, that they're good players, generally.
He gave that himself, Josh Adokar.
He gave himself the Fox?
He calls himself the Fox, yeah. I'm sure it was his mum or somebody that said that was his name.
Well, Chariots as well, of course. One of those nicknames that I feel like we don't have enough of that type of nickname anymore. Like last week when we were talking about David Finn last week at Wigan, there was a guy who used to sit behind me who'd always shout, every time he had the ball, he'd be like, go on Disco, and Disco Inferno. was where it came from. We don't have enough of those nicknames anymore. Big Leslie, Alan. It's the first shout out for Big Leslie, really. I know it was briefly mentioned by Joshua's granddad, by John there, but obviously one of your favourite wingers, I'm assuming, of all time. One of the Super League greats. Massive man mountain of a bloke, but knew how to finish.
It's an interesting one because, for me, when you talk about Super League defining wingers, Leslie Vainikolo is that winger. His try scoring record is second to none. I think it's 147 in 151 games. I can't think of a modern day player who's got a record like that. It helps that he was in a great side and he had some great centres inside him. But yeah, a fantastic player. Incredibly difficult to stop going forward. A bit like a kind of shipping big tanker trying to turn him round. But when he got going, he was very difficult to stop. So yes, for me, he's one of the one of my favourites.
If he had a fault, it was handling grubber kicks, wasn't it? Because he couldn't either get down to them or get around to them. But outside of that, it was pretty bloody impressive. So for Bradford, his record, 145 and 149, 147 and 152, sorry, is what it says on the Rugby League project. Right. Which I would say, actually, there's players like Josh Charnley around right now who have similar-ish records. But yeah.
He's up there anyway.
Oh, definitely, massively.
Yeah, and obviously he was even more than his ability. He became a cult hero, which is a big thing. You know, that plays into
iconic,
your favourite players.
Massively
an absolute icon. And this is the thing. I mean,
Actually, do you know what? Here's a test of his sort of standing. I guess Leigh, is he a player that you'd heard of before being like a big rugby league fan?
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah. There you go. And I'm pretty sure Martin Offiah was another.
Yeah.
A lot of the Bradford players from that era, though. Yeah, but definitely Van der Kolk I've heard of. Yeah.
Yeah, and he had a good nickname. There you go. You see.
Yeah, the volcano.
Yeah, there you go.
Carsten Bruman's next, at Swiss_cowboy_78. He said his favourite of all time is Martin Offiah. Fuck, he was fast. Favourite of his club, Kyle Felt, the great, in brackets, unofficial 9 for Mortal. I think that'll stay unofficial for some time, but he did score an important try for your side, so give you that one. And then his favourite in Super League is Tom Johnston, if not injured. Honourable mentions go to Semi Radradra, Ryan Hall, Corey Oates, the Fox, but don't mention Fingers. Okay, well, you brought him up, but we won't go any further on that one there. Bloody hell, a lot of people are talking about Martin. Yeah. Sarah, what did Dr. Bob Phillips say?
Dr. Bob Phillips. Well, I'm sure it'll come as a surprise to most people to hear that Dr. Bob thinks that Ryan Hall remains the world's best winger because not only can he have tries ruled out in World Cup events, he can solve a Rubik's Cube and play beautiful piano and fill one's eyes with delight.
Heart eye emoji from Dr. Bob, I'm sure, on the Ryan Hall one there. So, Al, you wanted to wait until Dr. Bob? Let's have a round of praising Ryan Hall.
Yeah, I mean, there was certainly a time where I know he'll always be Bob's favourite, and no one would want to deny him that. But he without question, he had a period where he was the best winger in the world around the World Cup and that kind of period. He was absolutely outstanding. And early on, I have to admit, he's senior, and he always seemed to be just walking over the line. But yeah, without question, Ryan Hall has become another one of those kind of all-time greats. And as much as some people don't want to think about that moment charging down the touchline with Jerry in his wake. It's one of those great moments for Super League, isn't it? Great players have great moments, and yeah, Ryan Hall was without question a great Super League winger.
10 tries in 10 appearances in World Cup matches for England, let alone his overall try-scoring record for England, where, of course, he's the top try-scorer England have ever had. Sarah, what do you think of Ryan Hall and his impressive career? Over 200 tries in Super League.
Yeah, he's another one of the... I feel like he was kind of the start of that bigger physical English player. I know we had a lot of the South Sea Islanders who came over that had that larger physique, but he seemed to be one of the earlier English ones of that physique. That weren't just a flying finisher, but that could actually barge people and all the rest of it.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. To me, it's the international stuff you think of in the end with Ryan Hall. There was one game he played for England where he played on the right wing, and I'm not sure why he was playing on the right wing, but I'm just going to try and remind myself of the actual game. It was against Australia at Wembley back in 2011. Tom Briscoe was on the left wing. That's weird. Why would they have him like that? But he was definitely playing on the right wing in that game because he had two diving fingertip finishes, and they were both from Sam Tompkins' assists, and they were both on the right-hand side. So,
if I'm thinking of the same game you're thinking of, they were both obscene scores in the sense that he had no right to score. No right to score.
It must have been when Briscoe was still at Hull and played on the left wing at Hull, didn't he? Briscoe. So and Briscoe was